What up, YouTube? Franchise Sports TV. Back at you again with another video. And so, it continues. I wasn't going to do this video. I was not sure what to name this video. Well, I guess I'll stick with this name for now. I was really trying to avoid doing this video, but I said, what the heck? I could do it without becoming too disrespectful. But I think it was a subscriber that watched one of my videos. Shout out to David Rosario. It was on one of my videos. I think it was the video with Gilbert Arenas accusing Michael Jordan of taking PEDs. Something that he's actually done again recently. I do get Gilbert Arenas what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to take the heat off LeBron with all these PED allegations about Chael Sonnen. And I think he's trying to fire back at Jordan once again, talking about Jordan went bald because he took PEDs and all kinds of just dumb stuff. But anyways, I didn't want to do this, but under the request, I will do it. Just for ish and giggles. I'm not trying not to curse too much on here. So anyways, we look back at Gilbert Arenas' career and what it could have been. He could have finished his career, let's say, maybe Hall of Famer status, if it wasn't for one incident, which we'll get to at the end of this video. We look at Gilbert Arenas' career. He went to Arizona, right? He went to Arizona, University of Arizona. He was named first team All Pac-10. He helped Arizona to the national championship game, but they lost to the Duke Blue Devils 82-72. And then Gilbert Arenas ended up foregoing his last 2 years in college and entered the 2001 NBA draft, the same draft that nobody remembers. Oh man, that draft was terrible. When you look back at that draft, who do you remember from the 2001 draft like that? Other than Kwame Brown, Tyson Chandler. Okay, I guess you got Paul Gasol, Joe Johnson, Zach Randolph, Gerald Wallace, Tony Parker, and then there's Gilbert Arenas at 31st overall, picked by the Golden State Warriors, also a member of the core. I do say this draft was slightly better than the 2000 draft. That's the one really no one remembers. So, anyways, Gilbert Arenas gets drafted by the Golden State Warriors. Fall into the second round. Allegedly, he fell to the second round because during, I don't know what they call it, the Columbine back then, but the NBA Columbine, and pre-draft and all that stuff, he was acting like a goofball. According to two NBA players, one of them is his teammate in Arizona, Richard Jefferson, and according to the other teammate he had at Washington, I think they played with each other at Washington, Kwame Brown. But we're not going to get into that too much. He was a goofball. Let's just say that. And he still is to this day. But Gilbert Arenas, as you all know, he wore the number 0. The reason why he wore the number 0 on his jersey is to signify the number of minutes that he was expected to play. Coming out of a small high school, which was Grant High School in LA. I think it was in the San Fernando Valley, and being recruited to Arizona. His first year name, his rookie year name, he started 30 games and averaged 10.9 points a game for the Warriors. And the Warriors was trash back then. And his sophomore season, he received the Most Improved Player award. And he was named the most valuable player of the rookie sophomore game during the NBA All-Star Weekend as well. And I remember Gilbert Arenas on his Warriors days. He had the fro and everything. He still looked goofy. But he wasn't that bad on the Warriors for a second-round pick. And then, after the 2002-2003 season, he became a restricted free agent, going to the Washington Wizards. I guess the Washington Wizards offered him a 6-year, $60 million contract. something that the Warriors would not be able to match because they was over the salary cap. And Gilbert Arenas was a second-round draft pick. Probably would have worked out if he was a first-round draft pick. And actually, because of this, to go in more in-depth into it, if Gilbert Arenas had been drafted in the first round, the salary cap had expectations that would have allowed the Warriors to match the offer sheet, which created the Gilbert Arenas rule, was to allow teams to resign restricted free agents who were not first-round picks. So, second rounders who was drafted, they can thank Gilbert Arenas for that. Now, his second season with the Washington Wizards, he would receive Larry Hughes. You guys remember him? He used to be after his Washington days, he would team up with LeBron. But Larry Hughes, people forget about him. I think he was even in a Nelly. Was he in a Nelly video, I think? Music video back in the day as well? Anyways, that's not important. But he teamed up with Larry Hughes, shooting guard, a very good defensive guard. Larry Hughes averaged 22 points a game even that year, along with Gilbert Arenas, who was also averaging, 25 points a game. They was considered one of the highest scoring backcourt duos, and Gilbert Arenas would receive his first All-Star selection, guiding the Washington Wizards to a 45-win season and their first player berth since '97. Like I said before, Gilbert Arenas led the team with 25 points, finishing 7th in the league. He also finished 6th in the league in steals per game in the 04-05 season, where Larry Hughes led the league with 2.93 steals per game. Not second. I think it's second. Sorry. But anyways. But in the playoffs, I think this is the only year when they actually got past the semifinals, I think. It might have been. And it definitely was, because the Washington Wizards, as the 5th seed, would finish the Bulls in 6 games. Then they would play the Miami Heat, but they would get swept out of the conference semifinals. So, this team, I forgot to add, this team did have Kwame Brown, Antoine Jameson, Larry Hughes, and Gilbert Arenas. And they actually could have had Devin Harris, but I think they traded Devin Harris, the same Devin Harris drafted out of Wisconsin, Milwaukee native. I think he was drafted by the Washington Wizards, and then he was traded to the Dallas Mavericks. So, imagine it would have kept him. But yeah, this would be the only season that Gilbert Arenas will get past the first round, because after that, it wasn't good. Let's just say that. But moving on. Gilbert Arenas, for that playoffs, out of 10 games, averaging 23 points a game, a career high 6 assists in the playoffs, 2.1 steals, shooting 37% from the field and 23% from 3. Yeah, but that's different times back then. And wasn't shooting as many threes back then like that. But Gilbert Arenas' career was just starting to cook as well. Now, going into the 05 season, he would gain the nickname Agent Zero, which would become it was his shoe. Gilbert Arenas got a shoe from Adidas, which I actually have right now. I'm actually looking at it right now. It's actually a very comfortable shoe, by the way. I didn't get it till now, actually, when he re-released the shoe. Adidas did, because I had never had a chance to get it back in the day. But anyways, in the 05-06 season, Gilbert Arenas is probably one of his best seasons when he averaged 29.3 points a game, ranked 4th among scoring leaders, 2 steals a game, 4th, and 6.1 assists during, like I said, the 05-06 season. It's funny, he was not chosen flat out for an All-Star game selection. He was not. He was not voted in. He was not even voted in by I think it's the coaches. I still think it's the coaches back then, too. He was actually a replacement that season for Jermaine O'Neal, who was injured. So he did get an All-Star, but he was an All-Star replacement. He almost won the 3-point shootout All-Star weekend, losing to Dirk Nowitzki. But the Washington Wizards were finished the season 42-40, 5th seed in Eastern Conference. And I think they would lose to, and I know they would lose to LeBron James in the first round of the '06 playoffs. The '06-'07 season, um, sorry, I was trying not to sneeze. Um, this is how goofy this guy is. He stated in an interview that he planned on averaging 50 points a game against respective teams, the Phoenix Suns and Portland Trailblazers. The reason why, because supposedly he withdrew himself from the United States national team for the 2006 FIBA World Championship. That didn't even go well anyways. He withdrew himself because he felt that assistant coaches like Mike D'Antoni and Nick McMillan had determined the roster even prior to tryouts. So he felt that he never had a chance and thus concluded he was going to try to average 50 against the Suns and Trailblazers. Well, he completed his goal against the Phoenix Suns. This is what he did, averaging 54 points, including 21 from 37 from the field, 6 of 12 three-pointers, and menacing to the Suns chairman Jerry Colangelo as well. The final score for that game, now this is almost a commonplace. The high scoring 144 to 139 Wizards win over the Suns. The Blazers, not so much. The game against the Blazers, he had 9 points. 9 points. 0 for 8 from 3-point. And they was blown out by the Portland Trailblazers. Now, this season, this is the same season when he was making game winners all over the place, scoring 60 points on players, scoring 60 on Kobe. When they played the Lakers, his career high was 60, adding 8 rebounds and 8 assists against them. And they won 147 of 141. Arenas, I think he still holds the record, Wizards franchise record points scored in a game by an individual. Nope, I take that back. He shares it with Bradley Beal. Previously, the record was 56 points held by Earl the Pearl Monroe and achieved in 1968 in the game. Funny, a game against the Lakers. I think that game was an overtime game because 16 points in the extra period set an NBA record for the most points in one overtime, surpassing Earl Boykin's record by 1 point. So I remember this season very well. And this is, actually, I'm not even going to lie, I was very much a big fan of Gilbert Arenas during this time as well. I don't know why young me was. Young me wanted his shoes. And I don't know. I don't know. How old was I? It was 2006. I was 16 years old, 17 years old. I don't know why I was rooting for this guy back then. I don't know why. I thought he was not undeserving, but I wouldn't say underachieving. No, not undeserving, not underachieving. What's the word I'm looking for? I felt that he was being disrespected in the NBA. I really thought he was. But in this season, he became a first-time starter in the 2007 NBA All-Star Game, kicking Vince Carter out by a slight margin of votes. At the time he was voted in, he was averaging 29.7 points per game. And keep in mind, this was a slower-paced NBA as well. And led all Eastern Conference point guards in scoring, was second in the league. But, yikes. Bad things happened to Gilbert Arenas towards the end of the season. By this time, he was also teamed up with not only Antoine Jameson, but also Caron Butler, fellow Wisconsin native of mine. But towards the end of this season, he tore his MCL in a game against the Charlotte Bobcats when Jared Wallace ran into him. The Wizards did not finish the season the way they expected. Not only did Gilbert Arenas was injured, but Caron Butler was injured, but the Washington Wizards will still get a playoff berth, but they were swept in the first round by LeBron James and Cleveland Cavaliers. And then this is where everything went downhill with Gilbert Arenas. knee injuries. Supposedly he was trying to opt out of his contract to become a free agent. He didn't like where things were going. And Washington, he's storming off the court, storming out the locker room because the doctors didn't give him clearance to play. I think he was still suffering knee injuries as well. They sat him out for the rest of the season, the 07-08 season. The next season, 08-09, he tried to opt out again after he successfully opted out, but he later stated he was going to resign with the Wizards if they cut Antawn Jamison. The Wizards did sign Antawn Jamison to a contract, and then Gilbert Arenas was also a 5-year contract worth $100 million by the Golden State Warriors, and another max deal by the Wizards worth 6 years, $124 million. Gilbert Arenas will ultimately sign a 6-year contract worth $111 million with the Wizards, and everyone got paid, as the song say, if you can get that reference. But as far as Gilbert Arenas' health is concerned, it did not go well. Once again, that knee was still bothering him. He didn't make his season debut in the 08-09 season until 2009, March 28th, scoring 50 points and getting 10 assists and an L by the Detroit Pistons. This is really when it went downhill for him as well. December 24th, as we all know this story, there was the whole incident in the locker room dealing with weapons, and I don't really want to go to it. I'm trying not to be too disrespectful with it, but Gilbert Arenas was an idiot for this. As we know what happened with the whole gun incident, and it was just never the same for him. He did make his return with the Washington Wizards after being suspended for a long time, averaging 17.3 points a game, I think in the 09-010 season. And then he went to the Orlando Magic, spent some time out there. But as we all know, after the 2010-2011 season, there was the NBA lockout. The Orlando Magic waived Gilbert Arenas in the amnesty clause, becoming the first player to be waived under the new established clause at the time. He cleared waivers, becoming a free agent. I don't think he played again until March 20th. No, I don't think he signed to a team until March 20th with the Memphis Grizzlies, becoming a backup point guard to Mike Conley. I actually did get to see Gilbert Arenas when he was on Memphis because I got to go to my first playoff game, Memphis Grizzlies versus the Los Angeles Clippers, a series that the Memphis Grizzlies would lose in 7. Gilbert Arenas' final game in the NBA was the Game 7 of that year, of that playoffs, and I think I went to Game. Yeah, I did go to Game 7 as well. So yeah, I got to see Gilbert Arenas' last game of his NBA career, playing 3 minutes and did nothing, and then he played some time with the Shanghai Sharks, and now, as you all know, he has his own podcast, which he does his own thing on. So, as far as impact from Gilbert Arenas, he sold himself short with some of his antics, as we all know, the locker room incident. And I think what we're seeing right now with these terrible takes and everything else, saying that the one way to improve the NBA defense is to get rid of all of the foreign players or European players. His attack on Manu Ginobili about a week ago, if you haven't heard by now. His disdain, I would say disdain, but his insultive attitude towards players of the past, like Larry Bird, even Michael Jordan now, trying to accuse him of taking PEDs. His disrespect of Giannis a couple of years back. I think all this is due because of jealousy. I think his career didn't go the way he wanted to because of his own mistakes. His name's Silly Gilly, for some reason. They call him that. I think a lot of it's jealousy. A lot of it him trying to be somewhat relevant in the sports podcasting world with these goofy ass takes and everything else. Um, it's funny. Like I said, he goes out to players who had a bigger impact in the NBA who have done more than him. And it's sad to actually see this happen to him. But you do gotta make your reviews somehow, some way by having the weirdest, dumbest takes that don't make any sense at all. But I will say this. He does spread some knowledge as far as the NBA is concerned. For every I say this. For every smart thing he says, he does say a lot of dumb things as well. And I also think he's being paid on the table by Clutch Sports, but that's here near there. I have no proof of it. I'm just gonna say allegedly. Like I said, sometimes he does make some good points, but most of them are just dumb. Like saying defense was better. I think the whole argument last week with TV, the defense was better than it was back then. If that was the argument, he's wrong about that. The silly takes. I think most of his silly takes are due because I think he knows he has an audience. I think he knows his audience. I think he knows his audience is a bunch of impressionable 20-something years, young 20-something years that didn't really see him play that much. These young dudes think that LeBron is all and everything because they probably was born in anywhere from the early 2000s to the mid 2000s, so they didn't get to see nothing that happened really in the 2000s. And so LeBron, the way LeBron is being promoted, and given the reasons helping out with that, and he's just spouting anything on his podcast, so these kids actually believe it. So that's why you have all these stands coming on to all these channels, sprouting whatever. I think he is helping with that. I think he's very influential in the podcast game because of these crazy takes. But as far as the NBA, no. I really don't feel I ain't feeling the disrespect that he has given, or let's just say he's thrown towards Manu Ginobili, because Manu Ginobili was probably one of the best six-man in NBA history, 4-time champion. I think he only got 3 All-Stars, but 4-time champion, an international star, especially in Argentina. Even though he was a 6-man coming off the bench, and some people say, "Oh, he wasn't that great." Well, he was very much needed in the Spurs 4 championships. And yes, Manu Ginobili did more than what Gilbert Arenas does. It was more impactful. And probably, like I said before, one of the best 6-man and also one of the best international players that the NBA has seen. But it's sad to see, at the time, it was sad to see Gilbert Arenas' career go out like that. But, like I said, I'm glad that he does have his podcast. It is what it is with it. I don't agree with everything that he says. I think some of this stuff is goofy, silly. But it is what it is. So I ain't meaning to make this video too long. Hope I wasn't rambling too long. But tell me what you guys think.